one team that didn't draft a receiver, but that unloaded a receiver that they had made a first-round pick 3 years ago, the Baltimore Ravens. The first surprise before the A.J. Brown shoe dropped was the news that Hollywood Brown had been traded by the Ravens to the Cardinals for the 23rd overall pick in the draft. Let's hear from Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Ravens, because it became clear once the first round was over and folks had a chance to begin speaking why the Ravens made the decision that they did to move on from Hollywood Brown.
Complicated topic, and for me personally, complicated because Marquise was my first pick, and be one of my favorite guys on the team, So, but Marquise came to me after the season and requested that he be traded, and was not happy and wanted to play elsewhere. Again, it was something that I anguished over for a long time. He would tell you, I think, that he and I had many conversations throughout the spring. And, I always say the club has to win. And this is a situation where it's going to be impossible for the club to truly win. But, we do what we think is best for the player. We try to accommodate players when we can. I'm sensitive to that, and so we did it. I think he would say that he feels happy, which is good, and we made the best of the situation as a club.
Hey, we saw this coming November of 2020 after a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Marquise Brown went off and said, what's the point of having soldiers when you never use them? Never. This is one of the natural byproducts of having an offense that is so heavily premised on
running the
run.
Right.
They haven't been able to attract free agent receivers because they want to catch passes. So they have to draft them. And when you draft them, they're going to get to a point where they look around and say, my career isn't really developing the way it could, the way it should. Now, he did somehow get 91 catches for 1,008 yards in 16 games last year. So he was finding a way to exist in that environment. But you look at it and say, all right, if he could get 1,000 yards with the Ravens, what's he going to do with the Cardinals? What's he going to do with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins? What's he going to do in that offense? Kyler Murray, hey, problem solved between Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they still have to do a contract, but I'm told Murray is thrilled by this. Remember, he was pounding on the table for CeeDee Lamb in 2020. Now he gets a guy he entered the draft with, and he played with at Oklahoma.
Yes, he did, right.
Murray is reunited with a teammate. Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown together again. He is thrilled by this.
Yeah, he should be. Again, it's Kyler Murray. They're just making the Oklahoma offense for him there. It shows you what their commitment to him, why he should be happy to be there. And, yes, it fits Hollywood Brown. Mike, you said it right. These guys a little bit, they're not in love with playing wide receiver in Baltimore. It's a different style, and, you're going to have a number of routes during the game where you're going to go, damn, I was open, and Lamar just said, well, I saw a hole, and I'm fast, and I was open, and I ran for 30. I'm sorry. And that's just, that's just the way it goes. It stinks for the receivers there. But I did not know all that. And that is really interesting. You could tell DeCosta.
You could have read it last night. You could have read it last night on PFT, but I have a feeling you were passed out.
Well, there was so much there was just so much going on. Mike, I was sitting there like on my A game all night. It was just it was literally like, wait, who traded who to what, and what team is? And then you'd look up and you'd go, the TV couldn't even keep up. You'd go,
it was after the draft. That all came up after.
I know.
That all came up after.
All right, well, yes, I went to sleep at that point. The day was over.
That's my point.
Was over. Yes. But, big trade for the Arizona Cardinals. Fits their team big ways.
And that is really the double whammy after the first night of the draft. Once you get through the picks, there's a flood. There's an avalanche of press conferences that happen as they introduce the new picks and as the decision makers are made available, and they have to talk about all sorts of things, including the comments you saw from Eric DeCosta on the decision to trade Hollywood Brown. So I can't. How can I move on without mentioning this? And our friends at the NFL Network and ESPN, I know they have a lot going on. There's a lot happening. The plates are spinning. But I didn't. Now, I had the NFL Network coverage on. I need to pick one and stick with it. There's no reason to go back and forth because it's the same basic information. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear it on ESPN, or I didn't hear it on NFL Network. I don't know if it happened on ESPN. Lamar Jackson was not happy, and there wasn't a whole lot said. There wasn't anything said about that I heard on NFL Network about Lamar Jackson. Retweeting the tweet that has multiple of the words that were said yesterday by Chris on the program, and then Lamar Jackson with the WTF when they drafted Taylor Lindenbaum at pick number 25, and then he retweets the welcome to Hollywood Brown in Arizona, and he's not happy. Lamar Jackson is not happy.
He didn't know either, apparently.
There was talk before the draft, weeks, not recent, but in the past few weeks, about Hollywood Brown being traded, and Lamar Jackson said on Twitter, no chance, or something like that. So he's upset, and this is an awkward time for the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, because Jackson won't engage them in contract talks. And now they go out and they make the moves in the best interest of the team, and he's upset. It's not going to make him more likely to call Eric DeCosta today and say, hey, let's go ahead and sit down and do that contract. I can't help but wonder at some point whether or not the Ravens are and if this Hollywood Brown thing hit Eric DeCosta the way that his comments suggested, I can't help but wonder whether or not they're taking a second look at the idea of having an offense that is so premised on a running quarterback, because you're not going to be able to keep your receivers happy that way. And as the league is going so heavily toward having great receivers and passing the football, this offense is not going to make it in the NFL. I don't know. Because you still need receivers, but if your receivers become remotely decent, they're going to want to go play in a different offense.
Yeah, yes, you're right. I mean, they might be one of those teams that, like we just talked about earlier, that has to go through the draft always and just goes and plays that game and realize that if we're going to play this style, some of the top free agent receivers are not going to come to town here. I think that's a real thing. Lamar can't be too mad here. This is where, again, it doesn't seem like Lamar realizes Hollywood Brown wanted out of there, that Hollywood Brown didn't want to play there anymore. So that's not a Ravens problem. You could see DeCosta obviously liked Hollywood Brown very much and had an attachment to the guy. But Hollywood Brown's got to do what's best for Hollywood Brown, and he's going to go to a place where he feels like he can catch and thrive and make a lot of money. And Baltimore,
and get paid.
Yeah,
and he's got to be right.
Paid.
You're right.
So there you go. And then Baltimore, they go safety and, the best center in the draft, and that's the team they are. And that's the team they'll continue to be, I guess, as we go forward. But, they're another team, Mike. You throw in this wide receiver crazy experiment that's going on in the NFL right now, and you see where it goes.
I know they do a lot of shotgun in Baltimore, but the idea that the quarterback isn't that thrilled with the new center, that's a pretty intimate relationship when you're not in shotgun. So they got to work on making sure Tyler Lindenbaum and Lamar Jackson are on the same page. They better work on making sure Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are on the same page, because obviously they haven't been as it relates to his long-term future. And now short-term, he's upset. And hey, look, well, let's leave it for another day. But I won't be surprised if a year from now Lamar Jackson's on a different team. I won't be. I just won't be. I would have said that before yesterday, and post last night, I could see why Lamar Jackson would want it. And I think that the Ravens have to be asking themselves, is this approach practical? Is this in our best interest in today's NFL? They got Lamar Jackson with the 32nd overall pick in 2018. They got an MVP season out of him. But where they stand now, I think they have to ask some real questions, because the league really is skewing heavily toward passing offense and valuing receivers and using the receivers that you have.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.